Marco Raya and David Festa. Festa ended the year at AAA. Raya had an incredibly rough start in AA, pitching on this kind of 2 to 4 innings at a time plan, and then suddenly in September really seemed to put it together and turn the corner. Do you think either one of these guys can be an effective major league starter?
I think that's the hardest thing to figure out for me. I think that's the hardest thing to figure out is who of these guys can actually be a big league starter. I think they both have what it takes. With Raya, both of his breaking pitches are good, but I don't know that. I think one of them needs to elevate to being great. As a great second pitch. Festa has 3 quality MLB pitches, but I don't know that he can maintain velocity through 5-6 innings. That's my concern with him.
He's so slight still.
He is. He's a big dude, but he's real lanky, and I think that benefits him. But Raya, I think he was really frustrated. I saw one of his toward the end of his bad stretch. He had a particularly bad start in which he might have had the worst body language of anybody I've seen on a minor league baseball field. And he wasn't having a good it wasn't like he was like mad at his teammates or mad at an umpire or anything. It was just, I think he was having a rough go of it. And I don't think it's fun when you're trying to be a starting pitcher and they're only letting you go 3 innings. No matter his pitch count, no matter how good he was throwing, they weren't letting him go early on. He threw fewer innings, very slightly, but fewer innings last year than he did the year before. So I'm having a hard time on what to make of Marco Raya. Probably more for that reason than anything with his pitch usage. I think it's really curious that they put him at AA, given that they were limiting his innings. Festa, I kind of like him because I think he's going to be a quality relief piece if starting doesn't work out. Again, I think all 3 of his pitches are MLB quality pitches. The dude is 6'6". He's big and lanky. He hides the ball incredibly well. But like I said, sometimes in the first inning, he's throwing 97, 98. And then by like the 3rd inning, it's like 93, 94. That's kind of what happened there. And again, maybe he can add some weight and that'll help. But I've just found that curious with him.
There's going to be more of those guys coming up the pipeline. The more of those types of guys that you develop, the better off your organization is, because you're going to have either starting pitching depth or you're going to have these guys that develop into really good relief pitchers. And so however Festa works out, it's a development win, because when David Festa was drafted, it wasn't like this guy's going to be a major leaguer.
Was it 13th round? Was that?
Yep.
And that's what's so good about how these drafts have been. The Pierson Ohls, the whole Cedar Rapids rotation. Like 10, 15 years ago, it was Nick Blackburn. Like, he was the number 1 prospect. And now it's like there's all sorts of pitching depth. And they're not all gonna turn. But the Twins have done a great job in developing these guys. And if one of them turns into a Cy Young type, then the whole narrative changes.
Yep.
And that's what's exciting.
Who's the top guy? Who's the top starting pitching prospect? I might have one guy. You might have one guy. You might have one guy. Like, you look at each of these kind of the prospect lists. It's like, oh, this publication really loves CJ Culpepper. Oh, these guys really love Cory Lewis. The Twins just have a ton of these guys that have been performing and looking good. If they can work their magic, like you said, not all of them are going to pan out, of course, but they have tons of opportunity with these guys.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to what you value, right? Do you value the closer to the major guy? Do you view the guy that's got the lowest risk? Do you view the guy that has the highest ceiling? Because I think those are all, and we might differ on those opinions if we had to say this guy fits this category, this guy fits this category. 3 different categories, we might come up with 9 different guys.
Yep.
And 5 years ago, it would have been like, oh, Jose Barrios.
Yeah.
Jose Barrios and Jose Barrios. And there isn't that guy, but Barrios struggled. I mean, he had his issues too in the minors. And you just, the guys that you talked about kind of fit each one of those categories. And that's why it's really unclear who is number 1. Because I don't think we would agree with each other, or we might not agree with ourselves tomorrow
Yeah.
If we had an opinion, and that's okay.
Jeremy, you brought up you called it the entire Cedar Rapids rotation. So Tom, I got to ask you about this, man. An incredible group from the kind of mid rounds of the 2022 draft with like Andrew Morris, CJ Culpepper,
Zebby Matthews.
Zebby Matthews. That's like literally 5 guys who kind of started together, had incredible success at Fort Myers, moved up to Cedar Rapids together, and continued strong performances pretty much across the board. Do you have kind of a favorite of that group, a guy you really like to watch, who's kind of caught your attention in that cluster of like 5 or 6 guys?
Lewis is undeniably fun. The knuckleball is sort of the thing that jumps out, but he's not a knuckleballer. Mm-hmm. That's like how often do you see a guy who, I throw a knuckleball, but who has good enough feel for that pitch to have it not be like, this is my pitch. You don't see that. And then he throws it like 85 miles per hour. I've never seen a knuckleball thrown as hard as he throws a knuckleball. That's insane to me. And then to have it just be like, it's just, I've got that on the side. But his velo is not as impressive as the rest of that group. Usually sits around 91. And, if the Twins have shown anything, it's they can get those guys up. So we'll see what happens if he can accomplish that. That's a game changer. Some places have really pushed him up. I haven't done that quite yet because I want to see that velo gain.
Yep.
Now CJ Culpepper and Andrew Morris are throwing like 95, 96. They're already there, and Zebby Matthews I don't think is too far off, and his command is amazing. Like him and Pierson Ohl were like 2 of the best strikeout minus walk percentage or strikeout to walk ratio pitchers in all of minor league baseball last year. Just incredible. My thing is, though, just like put Morris in there. Put Morris in that conversation.
Yeah, he's overlooked, man.
I hear a lot of Lewis, Culpepper, and Matthews. And then I'm always like waiting. I got the edge of my seat. Like, are they going to mention my guy? And they don't. And it's like Andrew Morris was the highest drafted out of those guys. Yep. He was drafted in the 4th round. And it wasn't like he was a bonus saving. He got $500,000. It was just twice as much as any of those guys got. Throws 96. His slider is like a 90-mile-per-hour slider. The strikeouts weren't crazy, and he's not really considered as projectable, especially as CJ Culpepper. I think you can kind of see it in their deliveries. Culpepper has some more athleticism, and he throws like 7 pitches. It's insane. But this is just a ridiculously fun conversation to have about a bunch of guys that were drafted after Connor Prelip. Oh, by the way, who has like the craziest spin slider. Everybody has their favorites. I just want Morris to make sure he's in the conversation. And I want to talk about them all day, every day, because how fun is it that all these late drafted arms are proving to be interesting guys.
It's the best.
It's the best. Kyle Jones is in there too. I think he was like the 7th round pick, and he actually was the first guy in Cedar Rapids.
That's right.
He didn't have as impressive of a year, but again, I mean, this organization has had a lot of success adding velo. I wouldn't be shocked if, in mid-season we're like, look, check out this Kyle Jones guy.
Do you think Simeon Richardson can contribute at the major league level? Who is likely to contribute more out of him and David Festa in 2024? So what are your thoughts on Richardson and if he can contribute in 2024, because 2023 was not a great one for him?
Well, he's maybe the guy I need to revisit most, because he had a very split season. I don't think a lot of people realize how well he ended the year. Over his last 14 starts, he had a 3.03 ERA. And that was with like a 1.2 whip, nothing too crazy. It was only like 7 Ks per 9. But, that's like a half season worth of starts with an ERA right around 3 in AAA. Certainly compared to how he started the year, which was horrible. I would love to look back and see what happened. In terms of who's more likely to contribute, I guess it's what role opens and what. I think Woods Richardson is more likely to get a look as a starting pitcher. Now that Baseball Savant data is available for especially the AAA level, some people are starting to compile stuff plus metrics, and Simeon Woods Richardson was super high on some of those stuff plus metrics, which is kind of crazy. And stuff plus it's the whole arsenal, you know. But I usually think of stuff still as like somebody who's got a wicked breaking ball and throws super hard, which he doesn't really. Especially the velo. Simeon with Richardson sits like 90, 91. I'm not sure how that happened when they acquired him. The word was he was like 94, 95. I don't think we've really seen that since he's been in the Twins system.
So far, his professional career has been like interrupted by a lot of things, right? Trades, leaving spring training to go compete on a national or world stage.
Olympics, wasn't it? The Olympics.
It was the Olympics, and it's like when your career is stops and starts and stops and starts and relocates, and you're, how old is he? 20, 23 years old? Like, that's a lot for a dude to adjust for. It takes just one kind of recalibration, and I feel like the Twins have been very, very good at doing that with pitchers. That I dropped him on my list. He's going to drop on every list, and maybe that's exactly what he needs, is to come into a situation where the expectations are very, very low and just be able to be that seventh starter and get the opportunity, and then who knows from there, because he's young. I think there's hope, aside from the fact that eventually he'll run out of options and the Twins will have to make a decision. But there's still hope there, because he's an athletic dude, and he's still learning how to pitch. Mm-hmm. And there's the reason that you get traded twice when you're that young is because teams really like your stuff. And so I think there's hope there. I'm just not holding my breath, but I would love to see him have success. SWR there's still time. And I think that's the thing with pitching prospects, is it's not linear at all. And he's been faced with a lot of stuff. He's thrown 407 innings as a professional at age 23. So I think he's figuring stuff out. I hope that he does it with the Twins and not 2 years afterwards with somebody else. On a way simpler thing, you're in the Met system. You're being told, we're going to work on this. Now you're in the Blue Jays system.
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to work on this. Now you're in the Twins system. How many guys are playing for 3 different organizations by the time they're 21 years old?
Not many.
Like, that's just I think things just need to slow down for him, and he goes back to being a pitcher, because he was a very well thought of prospect by everybody. He was a consensus top 100 prospect before 2020, before 2021 or 2020. 2021.
I love his mound presence too. He is a guy who like talks to himself and is like nodding. He's just a high energy, fired
Chris
up.
Archer type.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. He seems like he'd be a fun dude to be a teammate of. A big thank you to the guys at Destination the Show for having me on for such a fun conversation. For the entire podcast episode or video, it's also available here on YouTube. There are links down in the description. Go check those out. Thanks so much for watching this video. We'll talk again soon.